Mothers and entrepreneurs are on their own, and as mothers, we are even more alone. And my name is Alexis Nelson, and this is Melissa, and we are here united. And we're starting our own podcast. This is our first episode, so welcome everyone. Melissa is a health coach. I'll let you tell her about her, and I'm a business coach, and together we're both mothers, and we both actually have very similar struggles in being mothers and business owners at the same time. So Melissa, what I'd like to give you the floor.
Yeah, great. I'm so happy to be here with you, Alexis. This is so exciting. Um, on the topic of, entrepreneurship and mothers and that sense of feeling like we're so alone and we're kind of, as entrepreneurs, let me start off, we're kind of like the one that needs to go out and do the things. We need to figure things out for ourselves. We're really like running our own race. And there's really no one else to support us unless we reach out, so it's really on us, to make things happen and all of that. And then as a mother, it's like once you become a mother, things change so much, right? Your friends sometimes don't understand. They might fall away if they're not parents themselves. If they have their own kids, sometimes that makes it even harder because then both of you guys are doing your own thing, right? And trying to like keep your kids alive and help them thrive. And it makes it very challenging. So as mothers, like we really end up in this position where it's like we don't really have anyone around us. Maybe you have family, maybe you don't. For myself, I don't really have close family. I have my husband's parents who are very helpful, but there's still like something always kind of missing, it feels like, and there's always this kind of sense that like, especially in the beginning of my motherhood journey, my kids are only 3 and 1, so it's still early, but in the first year of my son's life, I really struggled with that feeling of like isolation. And with all of the societal changes that we went through the last few years, and it just has only made it so much more difficult to make connections and reach out. And I really see that a lot of mothers struggle to get themselves out of the house, get themselves, in their community, or to even find community, or even to have the perception that community is possible for them. And so it creates this sense of isolation in our mind first, even if we're not necessarily in like a really isolated state. Like maybe someone has family that's close by, but they don't feel connected to them, or they don't feel like they can share, the trials and tribulations that they're going through. And it kind of creates this sense of being alone. And then there's other people who really are alone. Like I moved all the way from one side of the country to the other, and left all my friends behind. For the most part, I've made a few friends here and there, but there's still that sense of like, wow, like I really have to try, I really have to like put myself out there, I really have to kind of make myself involved, and kind of force myself to make friends, and also for my friends to meet up with me, because the ones that I have made, they're also parents, or they live farther away, and we're always kind of moving. So there's always this kind of sense of like distance, not only physically but emotionally and even like mentally for ourselves. And if you're not connected to your own spirit, your own center of self, then that can make it even more lonely. And I think that's something that we really need to work on and focus on as like the first principle for finding that sense of connection and creating that sense of connection. Because when you attune to yourself and you attune to your own needs, you can really start to think of like, oh, like I'm missing friendships, I'm missing community, I'm missing, going out or whatever it might be. And from that place, you can actually start to think about, like, well, how do I get that? How do I create that for myself? Right. And I think, Alexis, that's something that, like,
Yes,
you,
yeah, I had my daughter in July 2020. Like fresh. Everyone was fresh, not knowing what to do and what's going on. No one wanted to come over because he didn't want to give us, no one wanted to be the one that gave the newborn COVID. And
mm,
everyone was really scared to even just show up. And even I have a cousin and she had her second child in June 2020. And she said the difference between her first child and the second child, she said like the first child, she had calls, drop-offs, people coming by. The second time, no one even remembered to call for a congratulation, like the same people, right? And everyone was just so in a panic, overwhelmed, and not really knowing what to do. They forgot to check in on anyone. But I feel like even without COVID, we still would have had isolation. I have read a lot of things with other people and talked to some moms of older children, and they do experience that because before we have our first child, it having a connection and having a village and having friends is effortless. You make plans, you go out. And I never had to put effort into leaving my house before. And so that amount of effort brings actual more separation as well to actually getting together, you know? Yeah, so it's just the feeling of alone can grow in that, and that's why we're here, because what you've experienced and what I've experienced is very similar stories with anyone else that opens up in that I talk to. They have very similar stories on them, and even if people do have family members around helping, they're not there 24/7, and I really learned, raising a child or children is more than just a two-parent job. It's more than just the mom and dad. Oh, you got a husband, so everything should be fine. It's more than a two-person job. It really is like a village job, and it wasn't that long ago. We humans, like my grandma, she's 95, still alive, and she tells me, in my day, in 1950, my mom was born in 1951, and she's like, as soon as they were two, they were out the house with the rest of the neighborhood kids running around and playing. And they were out of the door. She stayed inside cooking and cleaning, and the rest of the kids were off running around with each other. So it wasn't that long ago. This where I've got my dog here yeah. So is my other child, is my dog. He's really jealous that dad is playing with Nova right now. He gets jealous. So I learned human emotions through a dog. That's another podcast. Like he gets jealous. But yes, we are alone and we have to put effort in. It is effort. And at first there is a grieving. I know a lot about the grief cycle. And
yeah,
so my dad passed away when I was 17, and I still keep him alive by talking about him, but it really taught me what the grieving cycle is. And there is a grieving period of realizing that you have to put effort into making connections and effort into building your village. You're like, oh, why do I have to put effort into it? I never had to before, right?
yeah,
And so there is a bit of a grieving period, and we can get into sadness, and that's when depression can set in, and then and depression and nutrition as well, and hormone imbalances.
mhm,
My goodness, like it all adds to feeling even more alone and isolated. And why am I feeling this way? And it could just be we've had previous conversations, and of nutrition as well being, part of the struggle of even getting the effort and the energy to get out the door, right? So yeah, we're here. That's why we're here.
the exhaustion of maybe sleepless nights with the baby, and then during the day you're running around trying to take care of them, and oh god, going through all the transitions that are so amazing when they start walking and crawling, but at the same time you're like, oh my god, now you have more chances of falling over and hurting yourself. And so there's so much, like, it's such a higher level of stress that we're constantly having to deal with and constantly, running through our nervous system. And I think it definitely speaks to the sense of aloneness, because when you have exhaustion, sleepless nights, you have you're being depleted, especially if you're a nursing mother, you're recovering postpartum from blood loss. There's all of these factors, the hormones are trying to get back into balance after like such a huge dramatic drop off, like your things are rising, rising, rising through your 9 months of pregnancy, and then all of a sudden they just drop, right? And it's like, oh my God, our whole body and brains and everything have to recalibrate, very quickly, and we're expected to get back to our kind of normal selves as well and be fully functional humans in society, but that's just not the reality, right? Like we really need to take that time to rest, to recover, to nourish ourselves, and be like surrounded by people who love us, who care for us, who are willing to, if you have an older child, to help take care of that older child, help them feel like they're getting the attention and feeling like they're special, too. um Definitely another story there. But there's so many factors that go along with that feeling of isolation, and like one little missing piece, not having enough food, not being properly nourished, not having the rest that you need to recover, not having, someone at some point to take over when you're totally exhausted, hopefully before you're totally exhausted, that would be ideal, right? But like it's these little things that people don't necessarily think about when you have a kid or when you're going to have a child. And in traditional, families and traditional tribes and communities, like people were all around you and they brought you food, they made sure, you were taken care of. Someone would come and like people would help take care of your house or help, with the kids or whatever, so that you could recover and really regain your true vitality and your strength, so that as a mother you could be, fully enlivened and fully present, because when we have that kind of stress and that kind of depletion, like it compounds, and if you can't catch up because you're constantly running, running on empty, then it's just like you age a lot faster. Let's just first off put it out,
Yes, you
you
do
know.
age faster. It is so true. And then, but mothers get the job done because we
Yeah,
find this strength within us and that willpower. Like because then you're your own boss,
yeah,
right? So when you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, having more than one business, you muster that up, right? Like you put the house. I don't know about you, but any mother and business owner has to give up on something, and that is the housework.
it's a
That's the
sacrifice.
laundry,
There has
right? And you yeah, there's something, and that's going to be the housework, and we just have to let it go because and then power clean on one day, take hours and power clean because you're like, I can't handle this mess. I'm just gonna throw these toys in the garbage. Something I thought I'd never say because my mom used to say that to me as a kid growing up, and I'm like, that's
I
so
get
mean, and
it.
now I understand because it's so overwhelming.
Yeah.
And but yeah, but we get it done. Honestly, I feel like hiring a mother is the best investment a business can do, because we will always get it done. We will always get the job done. Yeah,
There
we
we go.
find it. Hi, Esther.
She's
Hi,
coming in for the
sweetie.
last little bit here. Oh, you.
Yeah, that's your youngest one. You have
Yeah.
two children.
Say hi. Say
She's
hi.
one now, right?
Yes, she is. She's almost
Yes. But
potty
we get it
trained.
done. Late nights. It's bedtime for you now. It's dinner
Yeah,
time for us. I'm in British Columbia. Melissa's in Toronto, Canada. And we're getting it done. We get it done. We show up. We nap when we can, if possible at all. I think not so much since you have two. But if the kids sleep in, like take that opportunity, sleep in with them, but yeah, we need to nutritionally support ourselves and we need to get the job done. through business.
Yeah.
You know,
Not
show
being
up for a business.
afraid to ask for help is the big thing.
Yes.
But if you don't
Yes.
have that foundation, it's really hard to think about asking for help, right? Because you're
Yes.
so caught up in like the exhaustion or whatever. It's
Yeah.
literally hard to think, you know? So it's so important to find the ability to take care of yourself so that you can actually function, or, you know, just create a structure. You want the pen? Create a structure before you have a kid, you know, where you can create community for yourself, where you have community structured, where you have a meal plan, meal share, kind of meal train, there we go, that's the word, meal train, running for you through your friends, through family, you know. There's all of these little tricks and things that we can do to prepare so that we don't end up feeling so alone. And and it really comes down to being okay with asking for help. And I think as
Yes.
entrepreneurs
And even
especially,
if we're alone, yes. Yeah.
it can
Even if
be.
we're alone right now, we can still start asking for help and start building that support network where we are today. There's always a step we can move in the right direction, which is just reaching out to someone, you know, just to say, you know, even just talking to someone. There is a scientific study that actually says when women share their story, just their story with of pain with other women, it actually, like, they've actually studied it in the body, it actually reduces our physical pain that we feel. Just sharing the story of pain, of our pain, and relating with someone else actually reduces our physical perceived pain in our body.
Yeah, that reminds me, okay, so there was another, this might be part of the same study, but it was part of the sharing was releasing like oxytocin, as
Yes,
well
I believe.
as some there was some other hormone as well, but it's like the bonding hormones, right? And those are so powerful to help us relax and feel like we're connected and like we belong. Oh, I remember
Yeah.
this was, the study had to do with the difference between men and women, because typically men have more of an attitude of, oh, I'll get it done on my own, whereas
Yes.
women are more likely to call a friend, you know, or a sister or a mother or whoever, to talk things out, right? And so the study had to do with lifespans, and that the men who were more in that kind of mentality of I got to figure it out myself, who weren't reaching out, who weren't connecting, were living shorter lives than, and in our society typically women live longer, right? And then there was
Yes.
I can't remember, some island community where the men were very involved with their community, very much, you know, brotherhood, kind of like there for each other, willing to ask for help, um and they were living equally as long as the women. So
Wow.
you know,
Yes,
and so
sharing our
it
emotional
says a lot.
well-being. Yeah. Yes. Well, that's what we're here to do. That's why we've teamed up and we've created this podcast, just for other mothers who are also business owners and getting it all done.
Yeah.
You know, to relate, to share the real raw truth of motherhood. We've got lots of topics that we're going to cover, you know, weekly. It'll take time for us to get through them all, but we will touch on them. And if anyone has any topic you want us to cover or ask questions you want us to share our own experience through, we are open, we are real, we are honest, we're, you know, and we don't, we draw back the curtain, we don't hide anything. So we tell the truth of
We're
where
moms
it
and we
is.
have little babies here
And we
putting
have babies, and I
our
have a 3-year-old who, as well, so she will interrupt us at some point too, I imagine. So yeah, but that this is just this is our first one. It's our introduction. Welcome. And we stay tuned for more episodes.
Yes, this was so much fun. Great to be with you, Alexis.
Thanks.